I'm the booking man, and I'm coming to get you.
Welcome to Book It, a wrestling podcast for the fans, by the fans. Rebook, and revisit your favorite wrestling storylines. I'm your commissioner, Lil X Fudge, and today we are here with your GMs, Damone D Money,
Mellow Yellow,
the bad guy Kenny,
Oh yeah.
and the return of High Five Mike. The cycle has started over. It's the first return now, but he's back.
Hello, governor.
Some nasty ass intros, just how we like to
Here
start.
we go.
So we don't have much major news. Where, as you know, as the loyal Book It verse fans know, we are in round 4. We have updated you on the scores. The final wheels have been spun, and the round has begun. Last week with BOA's part 1 of what's the name of the show again?
Warzone.
That was Warzone.
Warzone.
That's from Ghana. We learned that mid-match.
Live from Ghana. We learned mid fucking match.
Yeah, sorry guys, live from Ghana.
Live from Ghana, West Africa. And tonight we continue with part 2 of that. So it's a continuation of the certainly one of the shows Kenny has done, but I think he's got some wild shit in store for us that he's hinted at. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason to hold back. If you have not watched Book It Verse, go back, watch some, at least Book It Verse 4, at least part 1 of this. If not, all of Book It Verse. It's all fucking awesome. Besides the parts where I do it. That's ass. It's still worth laughing at.
Like Mike said, you're a bottom 2 booker.
It was so bad it made me cry.
You've said it more than I have. I don't even think I've ever said it. So
he said,
Mike, you call me a bottom 2 promo, and I'm about to cut a top
Definitely
1
did.
promo on your bitch ass. But anyways, bad guy, take us into Black Owned Alliance Warzone Part 2.
Okay, so as y'all know, we are in Ghana. So like I said, we did get that across. I did say that.
We now know that.
On record. It's on record. All right, so for this next one, if you remember correctly, we've been teasing the boogeyman for some time now. He's been in different situations, and he's been, killing kids left and right.
Didn't he eat a kid or something?
He killed the one kid, and then the other one he killed the parent.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's better.
And then the other side, we have, if you guys remember, there was a point where, what's his name? Tony Atlas and Big E were in a cage match. And in this cage match, it was pretty much Big E had never lost. Tony Atlas had never lost. And these two were going at it. And Tony Atlas was about to tap out. And then the police showed up, led by Big Boss Man, Sergeant Ray Traylor. And him and his group, which was, I'm trying to think who was in there. Jessica Havoc, Michael P.S. Hayes, Buddy Lee Parker.
It's a nasty ass group.
Oh, it's supposed to be nasty. It's supposed to be disgusting. I think that's his name for it.
What the hell is Buddy Lee Parker?
He was also a cop. He was also a cop. I looked him up. I looked up cop gimmicks, and he was one of them.
He looks like Brock's dad.
But yeah, they're dirty cops. We've seen them do some dirty things so far, but that's where we're at right now. So we got those two storylines going on.
Yeah, he looks racist. He looks racist. He also looks like a shorter version of Brock.
Kenny was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, we've seen some hints of racism from this cop group, but nothing too crazy. But we saw little hints.
Until now.
Yeah, it's about to get all in the hints here. Okay.
What's this motherfucker's name again?
Which one?
The most recent nasty cop.
I think Buddy Lee Parker is that the one I said?
Buddy Lee Parker.
Yeah, Buddy Lee Parker.
I gotta look this up too. Now that Damone said it, I can't not have this image in my mind.
Yeah, it's nasty.
His real name is Dwayne Bruce. He's a racist. Fucking small soldiers looking ass. Oh yeah. This guy was definitely in attendance for January 6th.
But yeah, like I said, that's the main two story, or not main two storylines, but the storyline's going to collide for this. That's the recap for this. So just to kick it off, we see Black Boots stepping out of a vehicle. As they're walking, we see the camera slowly pan up to black pants and black shirt with a black bulletproof vest and aviator glasses, twirling. And then we see him like twirling his nightstick, revealing to be Sheriff Ray Traylor Jr., aka the Big Boss Man. He taps the window with his billy club. The window comes down as he says, "License and registration, please." We see his evil smirk as the scared black man in the driver's seat hands it to him. He's smacking on his gum as he looks at him and says, "Boy, is it your lucky day." And here I thought you fit the description. The black driver looks aggravated and Big Boss Man walks away. He hits his tail light with the nightstick as he says, "You might want to get that fixed. You can get pulled over for that." We hear the man in the car say, "What the hell, man? Come on. This is bullshit. Who holds you accountable, huh? You ain't a cop." And Boss Man gets back in his cruiser and drives off. Now the man drives off and he's stopped again by a different cruiser. It's Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker, who's also part of Boss Man's crew. He says, "License and registration." He goes to grab it, but realizes he doesn't have it. And Boss Man still has it. He says, "Wait, sir, I was just pulled over. This cop, he took it." Let me guess. He broke your tail light too? "But sir, I didn't." "Step out the car." He gets out and he says, "Sir, honestly, you're beginning to piss me off. Don't resist." He pulls out his baton and like shoves him up against the car. And the man grapples with him for a little bit, but is taken down and is beaten with the baton fiercely across his back. We see a cruiser drive by and stop. "Sergeant!" We hear Big Boss Man yell out from his car. He gets out. "You don't need to use your baton. All you need is your pepper spray." And he pepper sprays him as the man screams. He smacks on his gum, and Parker says, "He says he talked to another cop." "He did. He talked to me." "You hear that, buddy? You didn't lie. I had his license and registration, too." "Oh, man, 2 for 2. Hey, Jethro, you really were telling the truth. That's on me." Big Boss Man drops the license and registration on him and lands on his bloody white shirt. The man reaches out and touches Boss Man's leg. "Oh, that's assaulting an officer." He smiles. Then we see the man's POV, and we see him kick at the screen that goes black. Later that night, Boss Man reflects back to being told a story about the boogeyman by a creepy elderly woman at a carnival. And he's told, if you speak evil's true name, then evil will be undone. Mossy, aka the boogeyman, is the most evil of them all. He takes men, women, and children to never be seen again. And he's sitting there reflecting on that, and he comes back to when Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker says, "Hey, hey," and Boss Man like wakes up out of his trance. He's like, "I gotta go, bro. I'm locking up." Boss Man says, "Okay," as Parker leaves. Parker's now getting in his house and takes his clothes off. He gets a call from his fellow officer, Jessica Havoc. She tells him she's been seeing weird paranormal things lately and is warning him to take caution. He tells her to stop smoking the funny stuff and hangs up. Buddy sits down in his beater and boxers and kicks his son out the living room. It's a kid's show with a man named Mr. Martin talking to kids, and Buddy scoffs at it as he sits on the couch flipping through channels until he sees a local news channel. He gets back up to grab a beer, and the channel turns back to the kids' show. He says, "Hey, Jimmy, quit playing games. Leave it on my show." He comes back, and Mr. Martin is talking about treating people with respect. He turns it back to the news. The TV flips back to Mr. Martin. "Boy, the hell did I tell you?" And we see no one is there to turn the channel as the kids' show continues to play. We see a TV cut on, and the boogeyman says, "All your souls will be mine." We see Buddy look behind the TV and sees it's not plugged in. "Something wrong, Buddy?" Then Mr. Martin crawls through the TV as he still appears staticky. Buddy says, "What the?" He says, "Too much TV can hurt the eyes." And we see him go to gouge his eyes out as we see the camera cut behind Buddy and Boogeyman's laughing out loud. We see him drop as red smoke fills the room and he stands there as it dissipates. "It's nothing personal, Buddy. I just want to see the light leave your eyes." And next week, as Sheriff Ray Traylor does a roll call, but notices Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker isn't there and hasn't been for days. Officer Jessica Havoc tells Ray that she warned him about a supernatural occurrence that's been going on lately with the local police force. Big Boss Man tells her to stop and tells him he never called in and it isn't like him. He says he saw him leave and he wants an APB put out on him. "We've done dirty things and he's coming to get us," is what she says. "Who is he?" Says, "I heard if you say his name 3 times, he shows up." Says, "Who?" "I'd rather not say." "Bitch, who?" "The boogeyman." Lieutenant James Earl Wright says, "Boogeyman, boogeyman, boogeyman." See, nothing happens. It was a story to keep bad kids good and as a way to make sleepovers fun. She's like, "You shouldn't have done that." He said, "Jessica, just stop. We're fine." A roach crawls by and Wright steps on it. "We need to get this place clean. Place is crawling with them. Bugs give me the creeps." So we see a big boss man drive over to Buddy's house. He asks his kid, Jimmy, when was the last time he saw his dad? Jimmy tells him Mr. Martin told him to say a name 3 times. And boss man looks at him and says, was it the boogeyman? He's like, yes, in fact. And he gives him a look before he tells him it isn't real. And a random scrambling noise comes from his walkie, says, repeat yourself. And then he says, repeat yourself. The scrambling gets louder, then stops, and we hear crackling. Then we hear, this isn't right. Go through the walkie. Jessica Havoc goes with Sergeant Ray. The crime scene is at a house of mirrors, and we hear, "Come get me, officer!" Then gunshots as Lieutenant Wright ducks and shoots back. We hear screaming. He said, "Did I get him?" But the screaming continues as we hear flesh tearing. We see Wright looking through the house of mirrors as we see one of the mirror reflections moving just like him, but it's the boogeyman. Wright looks back confused, but only sees himself. We hear the laugh as roaches come out of the boogeyman's mouth. Give me a kiss. He kisses him as we see the roach cover his whole body, and then he kicks him into a mirror to never be seen again, and the screen goes black. Officer Havoc and Sheriff Ray get there too late as the crime scene is empty and a red fog covers the scene, but it's slowly going away. Next week, Officer Jessica Havoc is afraid as Officer Michael Hayes and Sergeant Ray tell her to stop bitching as they head to BOA. Officer Michael Hayes says, "Look, it's JTG. I love him as a wrestler." Big Moss Man says, "Well, let's meet your hero." He goes up to him and says, "John the Great, my boy Big Mike here wants an autograph." JTG says, I don't sign autographs." Big Boss Man laughs and says, "You do today. Make it out to my good friend Ray," as he pats his nightstick. And JTG gives him a look and signs it. "See, that wasn't so hard." And then he jabs him in the gut with it. And they keep walking and end up in the locker room. "What do we have here?" And the locker room has Carmelo Hayes, Ashanti the Adonis, and Alex Devine. Well, this is going to be fun. They look at their nightsticks and cut the lights out. So we know they got beat up at this point. Officer Havoc is still in the car scared. The radio changes to one way or another. I'm going to find you. She turns it off and it cuts back on again. And we hear, sometimes it feels like somebody's watching me play. And she turns it back off and she lets out a sigh as we hear boo from her side. And Boogeyman shows up as Jessica tries to get out the car, but it's locked. All that fear. It tastes so good. He looks to the side of her face and she suddenly can't control her movements. And Boogeyman is in the passenger seat, like pantomiming, reaching for a shotgun and points at the bottom of his chin. And his eyes get real big and smiles as she can't help but to follow what she's doing with an actual shotgun. And he says, "Looks like you're riding shotgun," and starts cracking up laughing as we hear a laugh as the red smoke disappears from the car. The next week, we see Boogeyman smiling, saying, "Let's have story time." And then we hear little kids like cheering and like, yeah, like cheering for it. As little kids surround him, as he says, "Back in 1795, we see a young slave by the name of Mossy being forced to make love to his slave master's daughter." And we see at this point, he gets caught, or she gets caught, and she tells her father that he forced himself on her. And he's begging and pleading, and they take him in front of everybody and beat him with the whip. And as he's in so much pain, he can't move. They drag him up onto where, they hang the slaves. I forget the name of that, but where they hang the slaves at, and ask for any final words. And he cries, begging for his master for forgiveness until the noose is around his neck. He looks off in the distance and he smiles as he sees a dark figure, but then the dark figure starts to smile as well as he realizes that he's not going to die, but he will be reborn again as something else. Something unlike this world has seen. He will finally be free. Then we hear his neck snap from being hung. And we see the kids that are being read the story all get up very possessed. And amongst them is Officer Michael Hayes sitting there crying, paralyzed. "So you see, Mr. Michael, that makes us closer than you think. Well, not me and you. Me and Ray, the big boss man. He is my great, great, great grandson. I don't know how many greats there are per se, but he hasn't been so great now, has he? So, in order for us to get better acquainted, I have to draw him out right. Pick apart his friends, do the world justice in their demise until I have my fun with him, and make sure he meets his maker." Which is funny because, in fact, his maker, or his maker's maker, is me. The one thing he truly hates, he is. And he has children of his own. And just like I did to his father, and his father, and his father, I will make sure they are gone. But I let them have their children. They will always know what time it is with the boogeyman. They hear the stories, they ignore it, but they will never know why. They think I'm some cheap campfire story, but no, I will keep doing this, and I will never let them know why. It started as revenge, but I took out that lion whore and her big head daddy. But now it's fun. So you will go knowing why I do it and not being able to tell them. Isn't that funny? Kids, the first one to bring me his eyes, I will give a rewarding treat. Ta-ta, Michael. And we see the possessed children all smile, walk up to the camera slowly as we hear screams. And he says things will get very interesting on Sunday. And at the PLE, we see Big Boss Man at a near empty police station, and we hear a voice say, "Police stations are very, very close to a plantation, right? We have to listen to you, or you'll enforce the rules, right, officer? But who holds you accountable? I mean, someone has to. I guess I'll have to take on the task. But because I want it to be fun," he snaps his fingers, and they're now in the boiler room. "It was fun taking care of fun taking your friends and coworkers." He snaps again, and they're all in line, possessed along with the children. "You are evil. I am necessary." And the Big Boss Man charges at him immediately and starts slamming his head against the pipes. And he breaks the pipe, shooting steam into Big Boss Man's face, drawing him back a little bit. And they take turns punching each other um, until Boss Man gets the upper hand and kicks him in the nuts. He continues to beat on him until we see a flash of Boss Man being hung from the cell. It seems Boogeyman has messed with time and space again, as Boss Man is confused on what he saw. And Boss Man grabs a large wrench and hits him with it over and over again and then throws it onto the ground. At one point, Boss Man puts Boogeyman's head in the valve wheel and tries to turn it as Boogeyman screams out. He kicks him. Boogeyman kicks him, and he goes flying back. He gets back up, but gets choke slammed onto the hard ground. He tries to gouge his eyes out. Then Boogeyman disappears, and he falls face first into the ground. He tries to pop up behind him, but Boss Man was ready for him and spears him. He grabs a trash can and says, "Let's take it to the streets, boy," and hits him on the head. And he continues to hit him over and over while he's on the ground. Boogeyman gets back up slowly and elbows him and tosses him face first into the gaze that breaks. Boogeyman cracks up laughing as the Boss Man looks defeated. These two go back and forth, like I said, like hitting each other, slamming each other on different sections of the wall. And at one point, Boss Man DDTs Boogeyman onto the hard floor. It ends with Boss Man reflecting, and he remembers what he was told, saying the way to beat evil is to have evil know its name. He reflects back to when he was told this in the past. He says, "I know your name." And he says, "Mossy, Mossy, Mossy." And then we hear, wait, she just disappeared. 1 second. He says, "Mossy, Mossy, Mossy." And Boogeyman screaming, "No!" Then disappears in red smoke. And Boss Man is tired now. He gets back into the parking garage and gets back in his car. And as he's driving, the music changes to Highway to Hell. And the steering wheel is hot to the touch now. And he's now no longer in control as he tries to brake and it doesn't work. And we see the old lady that told him this as a child in the rearview mirror slowly morph into the Boogeyman. And Big Boss Man realizing he was in his games even at a young age as the car turns by itself and it goes flying off a bridge. And we see the car filled with red smoke as Boogeyman laughs and we cut the black.
$5.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, this is ungoddamn deniable.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you,
Said by the man who ended racism. $5.
Mike, what you got for me?
Oh, is Mike gonna hate here?
Is Mike going to be the hater?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I think Mike might be the hater on this one.
I don't understand what Boogeyman's powers are.
So Boogeyman can pretty much like warp reality to his will.
That is a little. That's a little overpowering. I mean,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point.
No, yeah, but as a horror villain, that makes it that. I don't think that works, champ. I think that a good villain would have a weakness and not like it reminded me of Freddy Krueger.
There was inspiration for Freddy Krueger in there. Yes, there was inspiration for Freddy
Krueger. The thing
with
with Freddy Krueger is Freddy Krueger still has a weakness.
Oh, he has a weakness. You just won't know it yet. You just won't know it yet.
This is the end of your book. What do you mean? How? We're never going to know it. What are you talking about?
Is this a Book It Verse 5 extension?
Is not a 5.
That's all I'm saying.
This isn't a 5 for me. I can't. I
Mike could
felt
not let Doink be
this
out
is
Doink.
no. This is
Yeah.
this is.
Mike can't let someone else do horror.
I'm not gonna just give a 5 just because I also did horror and I'm gonna be nice about it. I'm not giving it an awful score.
Oh, now Mike doesn't want to be nice about it.
When it's a black villain.
during the black show with a black
I stopped being
horror
nice
character.
about it. Fucking 2 fucking
Yeah, stir that
rounds
shit up.
ago.
Simone, talk your shit.
He has a weakness. It just hasn't been revealed yet. That's the
Big
thing.
boss Mike
And-
over here.
You know what is?
And-
You know what
I'm
is
allowed to have issues.
You know what
as,
is-
well, that's
as
fine.
the
That's-
only
that's fine.
person other than Kenny that probably watches horror. I'm allowed to have fucking issues with a straight on horror fucking.
No, I've
storyline.
watched
So
horror
you can
films on
fucking
hood
suck my
movie
dick
reviews.
and let me rate.
You know what his weakness is? Racism.
Like I said, we will. The weakness is coming. It's just the first time you see
We
it.
shall overcome.
I'm just
someday.
calling storylines. I mean,
I've
this was
only
all
watched horror movies
storyline.
on hood
It's
movie
all
reviews.
storyline.
Yeah, this was more like even though
a
it pretty much
movie.
was even though it's pretty much ended a boiler room brawl. It pretty much was like okay, it was still one big continual story. It wasn't like I was going to do something different with him that I didn't with anybody else.
So
Mike's gonna say this should have been on an episode of Raw.
no, it's
instead of a pay-per-view.
first of all, he's doing it on a pay-per-view, so no, it's in the right spot.
Motherfucker, that's what I did.
You didn't do it on a pay-per-view.
Yes, I
You
did.
did it on Raw.
No, I did it on a pay-per-view. You said no, this shouldn't be on the pay-per-view.
Well, yes,
this should be on Raw.
but his is all cinematic. His entire fucking thing is cinematic. This
the
makes
whole
sense.
part of that thing was
Yours
cinematic
doesn't make
too.
yours didn't make sense. Also,
No, mine was why?
fuck you.
Mine was also cinematic. They were
I
both
love how
cinematic.
I love how you're getting angry about something that I rated a
Look at that
verse
Cole got
ago.
a grudge he came
Yes.
in with.
You heard that motherfucker.
Yeah. I don't forget.
I'm not
or
giving this a
forgive.
5. I'm giving it. Oh, didn't forget 4.8.
4.8. I'll take it.
Hey,
There's
that's
plot
the
hole
funniest
issues,
argument over 20
and I
cents I
think
ever
he's
fucking seen.
overpowered.
Justice for Kenny.
To still get like
That's-
a 4.95 overall rating. All this drama, I love that.
I'm not
shit.
mad at it. It's just like I said, I just didn't reveal the weakness yet. The
Of
weakness
course
is
you ain't
coming.
mad. You guys still got a 4.95 overall.
He gave me 4.8. He gave me 4.8.
Well, I mean, like combined with the 2 5s, like
Yeah,
And-
like I said, I'm not
I'm
mad
not
at
trying
it
to
at
bring
all.
it down with like
But
a fucking
Point
proof.
five to balance it out.
But you will get. He's gonna be the 5.5.
No, Travis will give you a 0.5 to balance it
Oh
out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Travis gonna hate this just because everybody else likes it. Fuck him. He calls me a contrarian. He's the real
No,
one.
he's gonna give it a 5 because I gave it a 4.8.
I hate Mike for that 20 cents. Like,
Shout out to the boiler room brawl getting the 5. I'll take it.
hey,
First time it ever happened.
the glass ceiling match got 5s from somebody. The boiler room brawl was bound to. The only thing that won is a crucifix match. Like,
Damn it. Not the crucifix.
That would have been wild to do that as a crucifix match.
After all that, yeah, that would be crazy. A burning crucifix match would be crazy.
Yep.
that would have not maybe not gotten 5s.
Coming to a Book It First 5 near you. TC Dub. TC
That would be
Dub.
crazy.
Oh, good God. We done gave Damone ideas.
But yeah, I'm not mad at the scores. I appreciate y'all. So now this is my final segment now. Like I said, I only had 2. We said I only had 2. So yeah, this is the main event. If you remember, Tony Atlas, he started off as the Nigerian warrior. He was like, I want a shot at the belt. I want a chance. He beat MVP. And like I said, he did anything to draw him out. He peed on his prayer mat. He was beating his friends up. But he did anything possible to get that match. He got the match. He fought Big E, where Big E's match, every time they fought, for some reason, him and Big E, it never finished like it's supposed to. So he's never ever beaten Big E. He beat Swerve to get his title. He came from a different brand to battle, heavyweight champ against heavyweight champ. So he took his belt. So now he's that guy. He's got 2 belts and he's looking for the next competitor. Now, Shelton Benjamin, on the other hand, Shelton Benjamin has just won the United States Championship. He's won a tournament and in Shad Gaspard's name, where he pretty much had to fight, dealing with a baby mom that was very, very bitter, homelessness, trying to climb back up the ranks and trying to get his name back out there. So that's the main stories. Getting into it.
Was it Shelton's sister who died?
That was Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
funny thing, I took this out, but I almost had Jay Lethal's sister pop up during the Boogeyman thing. Like it was going to be a segment where Big Boss Man was going to be walking through the hospital, and then and he bumps into her, and she's going to turn around and look, and that was going to be it. So something was off. That was going to be in there, but I ended up taking that out for length purposes. I didn't want it to be too long, so I took a bunch of shit out for the
Mike
Boss
would have
Man.
given you a 4.9 then.
Yeah, I was gonna have him meet a couple dead people along the way, but I was like, nah, I ain't able to do that. But yes, I'm gonna get into it. So we see a younger Tony Atlas as he play wrestles with this. Oh, my fault. Let me go back. One more thing. So the last pay-per-view, it ended with him beating Swerve, Tony Atlas beating Swerve, but his son in the match with Big E, he was the one that called the police because he was worried he was gonna lose the match. So he called the police. They came out and stopped the match. And Big E, being the person that would rather die on his sword than pussy out, beat the living shit out of his son. To like he didn't know him. He was bleeding everywhere, and that was how the pay-per-view ended. With just him beating him down and him crying like, "Dad, why? Dad, I'm sorry," and he was just like, "You gonna do?" And then he
You
kept beating him down.
you mean Tony beat up?
Yeah. Tony beat up Robert because his son's Robert Atlas. But yeah, so we see a younger Tony Atlas as he play wrestles with his son Robert as a young kid. He messes up a takedown. Tony says, "It's okay. You messed up. Don't beat yourself up over it. No matter what you go through, I'll be there. Whatever you need, I'll be there for you. My dad was a tyrant. He worked me to the bone. I'll never be like him. Dad loves you. And remember, family first." Says, "Thanks, Dad." He picks Robert up as we hear young Robert Atlas laugh, and then scream, "Look at me!" He goes, "Look at me!" Then it cuts to Soul Survivor, where he's like, "Look at me! Look at me! I want you to look at me in my eyes when you do this. You owe me that." He has one arm handcuffed, and Tony Atlas is sitting there crying as we see a tear roll down Tony's cheek. Then he hits him several times with punches that bust him open. Tony looks at him and yells real loud, pissed off. He then hits him with an unprotected chair shot to the head. Robert drops down to both knees, and his unconscious Tony grabs him by the throat and choking him and shaking his head as his face turns beet red. "Look what you made me do!" He continues to choke him and throws his head down. Laid out now, dangling by his arm, he puts the back of his head on his lap, and he strokes his face, still crying. Then he stops crying and continues to punch his forehead over and over and over again. Blood is pouring down his face as Tony throws his head down to the mat. Tony paces back and forth with his fingers like covering his face and yells, "You did this!" and drives the chair into his gut over and over. Security, EMTs, and Shelton Benjamin come out separating him. "We cannot look weak. This is what you've done." And the crowd boos as we see Robert get put on a stretcher and hauled away. It cuts now as Tony is in the ring with Malcolm Bivens, and now it's present day. See, little Anthony was a young boy. Little Anthony loved his family. Even when dear old dad pissed little Anthony's mother off to the point of her leaving because of the rigorous workouts he did on a young boy, the mind games, the manipulation, little Anthony still put up with it. Malcolm holds the microphone up to Tony's face as Tony says, "See, little Anthony did anything to please his father, to the point I didn't have any fun. All I knew was eat, sleep, and fight. Little Anthony's son was the only thing dear to him in his life. But when his son betrayed him, you were supposed to carry on my legacy. Robert was supposed to carry on my legacy. He died the day I needed him most. A piece of me died that day. I didn't want to do it. I had to do it. People were questioning my leadership. They think I don't know what I'm doing, that was my only son. And I'll do it 1,000 times over if I had to do it over. People act like there's good and bad. No, there's the strong and the stupid. And I told my son before, I refuse to be vulnerable. I can't go against my destiny. I won't let family fuck up my goal. I won't let these fans fuck up my goal. All is fair in love and war, and there is no more love, only war. There is only me, Tony Atlas. I'm the champion. I'm the star. This is the house that Tony Atlas built. Born amongst lions. His name is born amongst lions. His name is heard across the 7 seas. I am the mighty Tony Atlas, and I am a Mandingo warrior. We shall usher in a new era. So extend your pinky, extend your thumb, reach your motherfucking arms to the motherfucking sun. And the crowd boos as he lifts his arm up, and he fade to black. The next week, we flash back again to the scene week 2 before Survival of the Fittest, when Tony Atlas as a kid was flipping tires in the snow barefoot as his father watches on with his arms folded. The kid is looking fatigued, and the father looks at the child in disgust as he seems like he's going to give up. Strength comes from within. Only in our critical moments are we either a combatant or a coward. What are you? And we see the kid looking at his father, and it zooms in on his cold, blistered feet as he flips it again. We hear, "What are you?" As the tire being flipped again, and the shot changes to the kid growing up to be Tony Atlas, but now by himself, heeding his father's words, still flipping tires. It changes to now as we see Tony Atlas in the ring. Before he can speak, Shelton Benjamin's music hits. No, it's about times we change things up around here. He throws his title down at Tony Atlas's feet. I'm a champion. You're a champion. Warriors don't decline challenges, right? It's 4th and 10. Ball's in your hands. So what you gonna do? Tony Atlas with both titles that throws them both down. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. I don't mind adding a 3rd title. The crowd cheers as they get closer. Shelton says, "We got something we got to talk about." Bivens interrupts and says, "Listen here, Shelton." He says, "No, you shut the hell up. I'm surprised you weren't able to speak with Tony's dick halfway down your throat. I'm surprised you can breathe. Now back to the grown-up speaking. You call yourself a warrior? Well, I'll give you a war, and I'll show everyone who you really are, a coward. You do that to your son, do it to me. You're a thing that hunts. Well, the hunter becomes the hunted. I'm doing this for Robert, since you want to act like your father. I am not," and he says, "I'm not my father. Everything I did it for my families. Everything you did wasn't for your family. You did it for you. I did what was necessary. You know what? It was for my family at first. But Robert just had to betray me. He went against my word. If he really loved me, he wouldn't have went against me. You're sick. And I'll do it 1,000 times to give it a chance. He's no longer my son, so save your pity for the weak. You think you know fear, little man? I will show you the meaning of fear." He gets closer as he says, "All roads lead to me, and I am their dead end. Love them, cherish them. You will not be the same once we go toe to toe. Your ending is written. I will make the prophecy come true." He then walks off as Bivens grabs his belts and catches up to him. Week 3, Bivens is backstage with Tony. He says, "You look good. You lose weight? You look like you lost 180 pounds of dead weight." And the crowd boos after he says this, realize he's talking about his son. The crowd boos after he says this, and Tony Atlas finishes lacing his boots and ignoring the joke on his son. "Let's go, Bivens." They both go to the announcer's table and sit down. Obafemi comes out, and the High Chief says, "It is told for the past 200 years, a worthy warrior will rule the people. He is our warrior. Tony Atlas calls himself the Nigerian warrior. We have the Ghanaian warrior. So feast your eyes on the one true warrior." And the crowd chants, "Who, who, who?" He stands in the ring with his High Chief. A gauntlet is started as Obafemi takes out R-Truth and Jay Lethal. MVP is the final contender, and it is back and forth until Uranagi takes him out. He stands there as the crowd is in awe. Obafemi continues to pose as the crowd is in awe at his stature. Tony and Bivens walk up on Oba and the High Chief and stand in front of their parallels, pretty much. Each give him respect with just a look and then pass each other over. Tony has a match. Tony has a match around the same time with Jay Lethal. Not Jay Lethal. I'm sorry. I put Jay Lethal in there twice. Well, get somebody else. It was supposed to be Jay Lethal. I realized I put him in there twice. Okay, so after that, Shelton walks up on the two and he says, "Before I take out one Titan, I have to prove myself against another. Obafemi, you're up." The crowd cheers. "Get your ass in the ring and let's see if I can go against the chosen one." No music, but the crowd repeatedly chants, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh," as he comes out and drums start playing by the natives. It's a very physical and grueling match between the two. And Obafemi's power seems to be too much until we see Shelton's heart is too much as Oba is starting to slow down. Shelton gets on the top rope and hits a flying pay dirt as the crowd goes crazy, and he covers him for the 1, 2, 3. So Shelton tired, dealing with 2 different matches. Bivens and Tony both get up in shock. Shelton gets up and calls for a mic. "I've gone through so much bullshit that at this point I'm numb to it. You told the people that you would make an example out of me. You're right. You're at the top of the food chain. I get it. You're just another obstacle. If the devil isn't throwing obstacles your way, you're not doing something right. See, I am at the highest point of my life, and that son of a bitch revealed himself. I've been homeless. I lost my woman. I lost my kids, but I kept on fighting. I showed y'all the gold standard is back. It has all led up to this. Tony, I know you're willing to sacrifice. I saw you become the very thing you hate for that gold around your waist. So are you a true warrior? Will you fight me? Because if you do, you will go up against a competitor unlike anything you have seen in the past. The crowd's loud with the cheers. He says, are you sure you want this? Because I'm everything they say I was, plus more. I am a warrior. It is not a match. He's like, it's not a match. It will be war. And the crowd cheers. They get closer and closer to each other as it fades to black. So now we see tonight at the PLE, and we see Shelton Benjamin walking down the hallway as the crowd gets loud with cheers. He comes out in red and gold trunks, bleached blonde hair, and the crowd is hyped as he walks down the long ramp to cheers. Tony Atlas is walking down the hallway as he comes out in all black, no theatric as the crowd boos, and he has Bivens carry both titles on his shoulders. Shelton uses his wrestling background to take him down since he can't physically overpower him. Tony tries to spear him from behind early, and Shelton leapfrogs to dodge it. Then he hits a German suplex and bridges into a pin, but Atlas kicks out at one. Tony hits a sidewalk slam onto the apron at one point. Tony rips off the top turnbuckle, and Strong Arms whips him, and it hurts Shelton's back. Tony ground and pounds him, and then tries to gouge out his eyes until Shelton headbutts him several times to stop it. Shelton does a handspring moonsault, but gets speared out of it. Tony goes for the pin, but Shelton kicks out at two. Shelton hits a reverse suplex, then rolls backwards and does a dragon clutch suplex. So, he rolls back with him, does dragon clutch suplex. Or dragon clutch submission, I'm sorry. And 1 second, I just lost my spot. So Shelton does an angle slam and goes for an ankle lock, and the crowd is loud as Tony screams out in pain. It stops when he rolls forward, sending Shelton out of the ring, favoring his leg. Tony follows him out of the ring and continues to stiff punch his head outside of the ring. Tony hits a lawn dart into the barricade, and Tony rips the mat off the ringside floor. He goes for a crucifix bomb, but Shelton flips him, and he lands back first onto the hard ground. That was a weird sentence. Shelton drags Tony by the announce table. He sets him on it, and then he climbs up the top rope. He stands himself up, and does a shooting star press. But Tony quickly moves out the way as the crowd is hyped. As Shelton lays there, and Tony sits by the timekeeper's table, favoring his shoulder. Tony at one point hits a stiff lariat outside the ring. Then he hits a stiff exploder. Shelton at one point hits a springboard spinning wheel kick. Shelton hits a superplex as the crowd cheers. He pins for the 1, 2, but then he kicks out right before 3. Shelton hits a T-bone suplex off the apron as they both land ringside. Shelton gets speared from behind out of nowhere. He pins 1, 2. Shelton kicks out. And Tony Atlas is sitting there looking confused because nobody really kicks out of that move. Shelton does a tribute to Shad Gaspard and does the money taunt. He hits Shad Gaspard's move, the Thugnificent, with his which is pretty much like a tripping STO. As the crowd cheers as he covers him for the 1, 2, but Tony kicks out. Tony tries to Irish whip Shelton to the barricade, but Shelton jumps up onto the barricade and moonsaults off it and lands on Tony. Shelton sits Tony on the barricade, and Shelton gets back in the ring and sprints, and then does a running, jumping springboard crossbody to him. At one point, Tony hits a brainbuster, and Tony now he has no energy after he hits that move. So now we see the lights go out, and when they come back on, we hear the music playing, and it's Tony Atlas's music, and everybody's confused with what's going on. Then we see Robert Atlas come down the ramp to cheers as he yells, "Get the fuck up! Get the fuck up!" And Tony, in pain, is slow to get up. "All I wanted you to do is be proud of me. Love me the way I loved you." He grabs his face and says, "The same thing." Tony, I'm sorry. He says, "The same thing." So he said the same thing Tony said to him before he's brutally beaten the last pay-per-view. "Look what you made me do." And he kicks Tony in the nuts. The cheers from the crowd as everybody's screaming as Shelton slowly gets back up. He shoves his face as he rolls out the ring and walks up the ramp to cheers. Shelton then copies Tony's finisher with a spear from behind. He gets in the corner and is charging up. Tony is slowly getting back up as he's met with the pay dirt. The crowd is loud with cheers. He crawls over to Tony and covers him. 1, 2. Tony kicks out to Shelton's surprise. The crowd is in shock as well as Shelton as he sits there with his fingers through his hair, and Tony lays there with his arm up. Shelton hits back-to-back T-bone suplexes on Tony. Shelton spears him from behind, covering his move once again as the crowd gets hyped. Shelton goes for a pay dirt, but Tony uses his strength to hold him up and then does a Uranagi, and the crowd is stuck as they thought he had no energy left. Tony falls backwards into the turnbuckles, and Tony does a crucifix bomb into the corner, and Shelton bounces off. Then Tony runs full speed and bounces off the ropes and does a spear from behind. He crawls over and pins. 1, 2, 3. The crowd makes the ooh, 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 ooh sound as he slowly gets up. He now holds a title in each of his hands and has the United States Championship around his waist now. The High Chief puts the Ghanaian flag over his shoulder as well. Shelton sits there staring up at him as Tony reigns supreme as the ooh sounds continue and the show closes.
So that's the end of your show?
Yeah, this is the end of the show. It ended with what's his name? With Tony Atlas winning.
So this whole time I've loved the Tony stuff. I like the Tony stuff here. And for the most part I've liked the Shelton stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't like them together. I feel like you would have been better because we spent like weeks building up the US title like tournament and everything, and then Shelton wins it, and then he pretty much immediately loses it to a main eventer who doesn't need that title.
Yeah.
So I would have rather you have Shelton do his own separate storyline, and then you could have also done a separate story, kept Tony and the Sun thing. Even if you you could have just made the Sun just stolen someone's fucking moveset and gave him the son versus father or something. I feel like that would have been better. I didn't like them here together, especially since Tony won. So now you pretty much made Tony like there's no one on your roster who can beat Tony off of except for Boogeyman. But outside of that,
there's certain people because it's slowly building a main event. Like it's like slowly building a main event scene because I'm trying to have Jordan Miles as my main, like he's a main eventer now. I'm doing that same thing with what's his name? I forgot his name just that fast. Like I said, Shelton Benjamin was like I was trying to build him up as a top guy as well. I understand, he lost here, but then you also have Big E, who's never lost to him as well.
I would have rather you have repeated Big E versus Tony here, and then you can have Tony like finally win and prove that he is better than Big E. Like I would have preferred that, or Tony versus his son. It just like I feel like I get what you're trying to do in building up the main event scene, but in the process you kind of undercut your mid card scene, which you just spent weeks building up by having the guy who beat everyone in the mid card lose that quickly. So I'm gonna give this a 2.75.
2.75. I got you.
I'm gonna pull a mic on my comment with this because placement matters. This isn't a hating on Mike. This is like, Mike says that you did like the wrong thing on the wrong show. I agree with that in this instance. Because I feel like this would have been good for a third show match, not your last show of a Book It Burst match. This leaves some to be desired because I think the real payoff, because eventually Tony's got to fall, and I know that you're probably building stuff up for future Book It Verse.
Yeah, I
look forward to that. But I feel a little unsatisfied at like what we're left with. It's just Shelton loses. Tony's God, other than Boogeyman, like Damone said. And I feel like the Robert payoff should have been a bit bigger. But maybe you're cooking that down the line. I'm gonna give some benefit of the doubt that maybe at the end of Book It Verse 5, Robert's gonna fucking beat Tony, and I hope that we get there. And I was
gonna say this is like
Robert Atlas
ended
wrestler.
It's still a continuing. It's still continuing. That's what I'm trying to do here. So I get it. I get it.
Are you
like the storylines never really end like the WWE mindset? I think it's what Triple H said at the first time Cody lost. Like stories don't really end, especially if you're keeping your company going. But with a big show like this being like your capstone of your year, there should be a sense of finality about it, and there wasn't with this match. Other than like Shelton Benjamin got a pointless loss of his mid card belt. Now your mid card has nowhere to go but through this unstoppable main eventer, and your main eventer is unstoppable. So I look forward to seeing what you do with it in Book It Verse 5. I don't think this is the right move. I agree with Damone. Because I see potential, I'm going to give it a little more than Damone. But I'm pissed I didn't get more out of the Robert Atlas thing. Like, we had all this emotion and
Yeah,
just and also I feel like you had the time to do the Jay Lethal story. And I feel like that might have added something. Like you're not cutting close on time. You could have added that. I'm gonna give this a 3. I'm gonna call it perfect mid. Um, there's a lot of potential here. There really is,
yeah.
but
Are
there's a
you
lot
even
more
doing
lost.
BOA for? You're not doing
Yeah,
BOA for Book It Verse 5, are you?
I'm looking at your roster right now. You're telling us we're gonna know about Boogeyman. You didn't draft Boogeyman.
I was gonna say he's not doing BOA for Book It
Oh
Verse.
no, I think I traded him. I think I traded him.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna see some stuff. You're gonna see some stuff. That's what I'm saying. You're gonna see some stuff.
Well, it's
Oh, for
definitely
Book It
not
Verse 5, he didn't draft
BOA.
No,
Boogeyman.
Boogie vs.
I
Five, I didn't draft him, but like I said,
Okay, no, for
you'll
this
see.
one, I think I gave Kenny Boogeyman
Yeah,
or he
no,
drafted.
Boogeyverse 5, you don't have Boogeyman. So I have absolutely no idea how you plan on explaining this.
Book It Verse 6.
Well,
It's like
He's
when
going.
John.
He's gonna do what I just did and hit the trade market
I am
based
not
on his stories. Like,
I was gonna say John still owes us like a Book It Verse story from like 2 Book It Verses ago.
hey, Damone, I'm paying that off in Book It Verse 5, baby. It's happening.
I'm not
I will
looking
keep
ahead.
my promise.
I don't even remember what it was at this point.
You will be refreshed. It is happening.
I'm not
It
looking
is in
ahead
the
to Boogeyverse
works.
6. Like that's not happening right now.
BBW's
What did you give it,
BBW's
John?
Mustafa Ali storyline will pay off.
John,
He
what
gave
did
he gave it a 3. He gave it just a straight 3.
Damone gave it a 2.4,
No,
2.75.
275.
2.75. I'll give it a. I mean, yeah. I mean, like John said what I was gonna say as far as placement. Definitely, like this. This feels very underwhelming. Also, you created a monster that I just don't see any fun in, and I've always kind of been that way with a lot of like monster booked characters. Like it can get boring real quick if you
But
don't.
you gotta remember, you also gotta remember, we're only 4 months in.
So you created
That
Roman.
makes it worse.
You created Tribal Chief Roman
in 4 months.
in 4 months.
Yeah, that
That's
makes
what I'm
it
saying. But you gotta
way
think
worse.
he's only had pay-per-view wise, he's only had 2 clear wins. It was two
Okay.
two and a possible. We're 3 now with this one. 3 now with this
Well,
one.
he beat another company's world champion.
Right.
Champion. He's a world champion, and now he's the United States
Monster
champion.
booking.
Motherfucker's
Monster
gonna be
booking.
tag. He's gonna be tag team champion, women's
He's
champion in about 5
Remember
months.
when Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe had all the belts in TNA? That's this motherfucker.
Yeah, I
right?
remember. Yeah, that pay per view where Kurt had to defend every title. He had every title, and he defended all of them.
Hey, it was kind of fire with Kurt though. I don't know if Tony Atlas could do that like Kurt.
Y'all might be onto something with that.
Oh shit!
I am building a build.
I just
belt
watched that
collector.
pay per view recently, but
Was
Kurt
I
did
am
belt
building a
like
belt
every
collector.
fucking title of that pay per view. Not the world title. Like
Tony and Rob are gonna be a tag team, and they're gonna win the tag team championship.
They gonna reconcile the differences.
I'm gonna give you.
they're gonna face the Mysterios.
I'm gonna give you 3.25.
Okay, I'll take that.
So is that all with your show?
That is it. That is
You could have
the.
done. I guess you couldn't have done that night one, but
That makes me a little sad, but that
I
appears
was
to be
gonna,
the
I was
end
gonna
of-
do all
You
that because
coulda-
that was gonna be 2.5 hours. I
I
wasn't.
mean, it would have made a no. It would have been about 2 hours, but it wouldn't have made a difference. We still would have pushed off. We still would have.
Mike, you know you would have been asleep halfway through the show. Shut your ass.
I wasn't
I want y'all full
here.
attention.
He wasn't here last week.
I wasn't
Mike's
here.
like, I didn't
got
wanna
play
show
it
up for
back.
this.
I got to play it back.
I'm pissed I even had to see part 2. But with that being said, that is the end of Black Owned Alliance's Warzone.
That's
And
the end of Black
moving
on Alliance for this season.
Our turn order might be a little bit compromised by some writer strikes in the rooms for all of PPW, RCW, and RPW. So just keep who you're going to get next week
That
is
should-
going to be
PWR.
PWR, excuse me, Pro Wrestling Renaissance, not Renaissance Pro Wrestling. Sorry, PWR. I knew the words, I had them out of order. You're getting one of the three of us next week.
Maybe. No. Don't promise that.
No, they are. One of us will have it done.
It's not me.
Well,
We'll
have half
we'll
of
at
it.
least have half a show for one of us next
Right.
week. Our writers' rooms are all currently struggling. There's been strikes, apparently physical and labor strikes. These wrestling companies really got some shit going on. Apparently, CM Punk has infiltrated all the locker rooms.
Not ours.
Yeah, he's not welcome in the BOA locker
I
room.
mean,
The cops
he is
won't
in
let him
RCW.
He didn't have his welcome white badge. But all the companies that allow whites have let CM Punk into that locker room.
Allow whites.
Y'all really got a whites only, and it's the worst. It's the worst bathroom.
That's crazy.
Hey, Kenny did not give us a Damone joked this last week, but Kenny did not give us a Jim Crow rules match.
No, I didn't want to do that. I thought me pushing Big Boss Man as this evil cop was enough. That was already enough. He was
Jim
doing
Crow
his
rules.
things.
That might come to TCW.
God damn.
Jim Crow rules is crazy.
TCW is going to do all the crazy shit that Kenny we predicted Kenny would do and he didn't. It's all going to get done by
It's the
Damone.
things that Kenny's afraid to do.
I'm about to
I'm
say,
not.
pin the white hat
Don't
on
end up booking
pin the white hood on the
XW.
Murder, racism, you know.
No, we did we did murder. We did murder here.
I did murder. I did murder, and I almost
I'm sorry.
did I
Not
almost
murder.
did racism.
Manslaughter. Remember, murder is a strong word.
So
For
you-
legal
okay,
reasons, we
here's the
prefer
difference.
we prefer manslaughter.
Here's the difference. You really killed your talent. We were acting. We got up, shook hands. Big Boss Man said, "You know, good job, sir." And then he walked back in his trailer.
I did murder.
But with that said, you'll have one of our
Kidnapping.
Book It Verse continue on next week. Let's talk about where you can find us. Bad Guy, tell them about your 37 shows.
You can catch me on all social medias at Bad Guy Spoken. You can catch the Bad Guy Spoken podcast on YouTube's, and you can also catch Hood Movie Review. We'll review all your favorite and not so favorite hood movies, and you can also catch Unbiased, the football podcast. We talk nothing but football on there on the same channel. And you can also catch Geek in the Motherfucking Sheets, where we talk all things anime, Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, talk about it all on there. And you can also catch, I forgot the show was, Not a Real Court. I want to say Book It. Not a Real Court, where we argue things like best vegetables.
Oh, yeah, are we doing that?
No. I want to get smoked up.
Is Joe
That's
just going
true.
to fucking buy celery at some
There's
point?
not one vegetable.
Celery
in
being your
between.
number one vegetable is crazy.
I'm not saying it's my number one, but I'm saying that
That's
its
crazy.
Celery
nutritional
should
value
not
is
be
nutty.
on your top 5.
Are
No.
potatoes still considered a vegetable, or are they already?
Yeah, they're starchy vegetable.
Yeah, that's my number one.
It's a root. I'll eat it.
Yeah,
It's a
Hey.
root.
it's a root. The
I'm
root,
going-
roots are on
I think I'm
fire.
going fucking peas.
But yeah, that's all the shows.
D Money, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on all the bullshit except for Twitter, because fuck Elon Musk. But you can find me on Blue Sky and the Facebooks and the LinkedIn and all the bullshit at DumbMoney213. So that's DAMONEY T13. And Book It now also has a Blue Sky. Like, I was using it. I keep wanting to say tweeting, even though that's not what it is. I was skying it during the
Is that
pay-per-view. That's
Oh,
I'm
up
just
to
gonna
the
call it.
sky.
I'm gonna sky it. I was skying it
nasty.
during the pay-per-view
You're
or the
gonna-
PLE.
You're
So
gonna blue yourself.
doing all that stuff over there. Check us out.
So when you reach your character limit, is the sky the limit?
I think it's just posts. I don't
And
think
Hi-Fi
it's,
Mike, we can finally find you. Tell us where.
I'm on Blue Sky, but let me see. It's just at Hi-Fi Mike, HIFIMIKE, but you don't have to find me because I turn my notifications off anyways.
Oh my God, he even found a way to make that stuck up. Fuck.
Who this man?
I don't
Finally
pay
get
attention
back
to
on social
anything.
media. He's
Look,
still an asshole about it.
I was getting too many push notifications. I decided to try to get as little as I could.
Oh my
And the
God.
problem is on Blue Sky is I didn't
My
want to
was
be
too cool.
I didn't want to
He's
be
popular.
notified every time somebody followed me because people kept following me back because I was pressing buttons. And
What about your
following a bunch
OnlyFans?
of people that now follow me.
What about your OnlyFans?
I don't have an OnlyFans.
I thought you had one where you were shucking corn shirtless. You maybe don't.
That would probably make some money, but maybe then I'd have some time to write.
And if you want to talk wrestling with me, you can find me two places. Blue Sky being the number one spot. Fuck Elon Musk. It is at Heel Hell Pepsi. You know how to fucking spell that, man. You know how to spell that. Heel Pepsi, man. All one thing. And I be bullshitting, talking wrestling, replying to the Book It, fucking Blue Sky, so that we can have discussions on there. Just because I like arguing with Damone and Kenny in my free time. And another place you see me arguing with Damone and Kenny and a bunch of other motherfuckers is the Reach for the Ropes Wrestling Discussion Facebook group, the birthplace of all of this. And we be talking shit on there, as well as the Book It page on Facebook. That's awesome. Book It is on every social media. You can find us, as is the T13, our mainstay, our fucking hub of operations for all of our shows, whether it be Bad Guy, whether it be Not a Real Court, whether it be Book It. Find all our shit there, t13media.com/merch. You can buy yourself a t-shirt of any of us or any of our other cast members, even if it's unbiased. I think you can even get a TK shirt. I don't know who wants a TK shirt, but you can get that. Beyond your wildest dreams, we got you covered. That's been an episode of Book It. See ya.
Bye.